Shalom Hebrew. Shalom Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Shalom. Y'all done seen that before. A book on eBay. Got a lot of history in it. Got a lot of history in it. 70,000 hours of history. Or a little better. That book gonna go into some history that the brother Sultan SETI that called himself the General. You know, I said I was gonna start doing some videos on him and how he been abusing the ignorance of the Hebrews and the Hebrews in the community. You know, we got a lot of different factions and we got a lot of different organizations that teach a lot of different doctrines, and we don't have no centered history that we all say, hey, this is what happened and this is the way it's gonna go with history that's outside the Tanakh. You know, the biblical history is our main source and basically our only source, because it's a lot went on in the biblical days from the time that we exodus Egypt to the time we got kicked out the promised land. I think it's like 820 years. You know, we started coming to the promised land, I think it was around about 1406 BC. 1406 BC, we started to come into the promised land, and we was kicked out the 99% in 588 BC. So that's like about that's like about 820 years. So that's not a long time to leave a signature in a land dealing with a group of people that's representing a new civilization and a new culture, because the culture that exists in the promised land before we got there was basically Amorites. You know what I'm saying? And the Amorites were a wicked civilization, or some wicked people that had lost their way. If you read the book of Ezekiel, he'll tell you about the Amorites covenant that they had. It's Ezekiel 16. And I'm going to read some of it. And just to let you know, the Amorites had a covenant before we Hebrews did. And when our father Abraham was called from the Mesopotamian area, he was leaving the area that was dominated by Amorites, and the Amorites had a lot of wickedness. They sold gods. They was manufacturing gods, religions, and everything. You know, the Amorites are the founders of Babylon. You got the Amorite civilization go back to all the way back almost to Nimrod days. You know what I'm saying? The people in Super and Nipper on the Euphrates. It was like two towns, and these two towns controlled the whole Babylonian history. These two towns, Sipper and Nipper, those were the scribing towns and where the archives for the whole Mesopotamian area was kept. You know, that's like the archives from Sumer, that civilization, Akkad, that civilization, and the first Babylonian civilization, the Amorites. All right, they had some scribes called the Sephardims. And the Sephardims is the Hebrew word for the Sephardi groups. The Sephardis, like Sephardim, Sephardi, and Sephardi, where they was placed in our land, and being that they was Amorites, and they was kin to the Amorites coming from Babylon, and they was kin to the Amorites that was in the promised land that we didn't chase out. The book of Judges is full of that history. We left a lot of people there. So when we came into the promised land, it wasn't as if we was leaving a big signature. We didn't stay there long enough to leave a big signature of our culture and who we were, because it was a civilization that was there pre-Israelite occupation. So, a lot of brothers have to take that into account and understand that. It was a lot of people that was in the promised land, and those people basically came from the Caucasus Mountain, the Hittite, the Hittite Empire, Madni, around Turkey, around those parts. And those people was kin to the Amorites that was in the promised land. Man, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah was an Amorite created nation, and those Amorites had mixed with the Nephilims. The Nephilims gonna be Cain's descendants. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's a lot of debate on, was it people here pre, Adam creation? That's a whole nother history. But we know that the Nephilims, and that the angelic beings, the heavenly hosts, who these devils are searching for and trying to find, the heavenly host that's in the sky, they supposed to have came down here, and it's thought that they didn't have pigmentation because they not, rotating around no sun, some of them, and that they made it with Cain, and Cain, kicked it with them, and some kind of way they produced, and out comes the Nephilims and the Raphilims, and those peoples, was down in Sodom and Gomorrah, and those people was wicked, and they had a civilization. The Amorite civilization go way back to Hammurabi, around about 1800 BC. 1700 BC, up in that area is when the Amorites civilization was really on and popping, and they basically controlled the world with trade and everything. That's like a lot of these so-called discoveries in these lands, with connecting the Eastern culture with the Western culture that they find in artifacts over here in the West that come from the East. You know what I'm saying? That's like they got the Samaria bowl in South America. I think the Aztecs or something like that. Well, those Amorites did trade, and they, traded all around the world. And they had a wicked civilization. And when we Hebrews come out to Egypt, exiting Egypt, because we wasn't a big force, coming into Egypt, and then, we got our numbers up, and then we go in to possess the promised land. We didn't stay there long enough to leave a big signature. 818 years, or 820 in between that time. That's not enough time to leave no real signature with a people that's already in the land, that preoccupied the land. But let's look at Exodus, not Exodus, but Ezekiel 16, prophet Ezekiel. He was taken to Babylon, and just dealing with his history as a whole nother history. You know what I'm saying? And it's time consuming too. And it's like our history can't be defined or confined in no 2-hour debate and no 1-hour debate. It's impossible, because our history is vast, it's mysterious. Man, it's a whole lot going on. When the Creator blotted our heritage out, it's kind of like, impossible for us to just come put it all the way back together. But I promise you, the Israelite Brotherhood got a great portion of the understanding of what happened to us as Hebrew Israelites. And I'm going to show you Hebrews so y'all can back these cats up like this. That's been a bruising the knowledge that they have. You see, he basically been a bruising the brothers and sisters by telling them that they ain't Hebrews, or that they wrong for saying that they Hebrews and that we Egyptians. I have a video about him saying that his time is up. You know, his time is up. And I go into how the Egyptians tricked us out of our covenant. You know, the Egyptians tricked us out of our covenant. And we went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion after King Josiah had cleaned it up of Egyptian religion. And, you know, if you read the history, they try to say that, you know, that Necho, the Assyrian placed king, that the Assyrians placed these kings on the throne in Egypt, took the power from the Nubians, the Ethiopian stock of Hamites, and gave it to the West African Mishwish tribes. You know, the people that was from Lower Libya and that lived in the inner Sahara, like above Chad and right, you know, at the edge of Niger. You know, they got, you know, had water in the ground that they could dig up. They called foggers, and they got the water from there, and they was able to survive. And we would go there in our last days, but the Assyrians put these African Hamites on the throne, and they controlled Lower Egypt, and they would control Upper and Lower Egypt. And them Egyptians tricked us out of our heritage, because, you know, after they, you know, killed King Josiah and placed the weak family members on the throne that, you know, took us back to Egyptian religion, we went into Africa. And that, you know, got us. But okay, let's get to Ezekiel 16, chapter 16, and let's see about the Amorites. You know, I might jump around for a little bit, but I'm going to try to make it all, you know, come together. And I pray to Almighty y'all that you brothers and sisters get to understanding, because it's important so we can back these brothers and sisters up. You know, I call him the Egyptian con artist. You know, he's an Egyptian con artist. And he using Egyptian history to extort the people that don't know. You see what I'm saying? So he's an Egyptian con artist. That's what I call him. You know, he ain't no general. You know what I'm saying? A general for foolishness. All right. If you go to the book of Ezekiel, and then you get to Ezekiel 16. And it says, and the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abomination, and say, This saith the Elohim Yah unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother an Hittite. And as for thy nativity in the day that thou wast born, thy navel was not cut, neither was thou washed in water to supplement thee, and thou wast not salted at all, nor swaddled. No, none I pitied thee to do any these things, you know, unto thee, to help thee, to have compassion upon thee. But thou wast cast out in the open field, in the loathing of thy person, in the day of that thou was born. Okay, so the Amorite, the Canaanite, when he was born, you know what I'm saying, he was cast out. You know, Canaan cast this Amorite child out. You know what I'm saying? Because they come out Tazarat. It didn't have no pigmentation, and they was horrified at that. And the Creator saved the Amorite. You know what I'm saying? Saved the Amorite, and dressed him and hooked him up, gave him civilization and gave him everything. This is way before our time. This is way before our time. We Israelites, you know what I'm saying, wasn't even born yet. Jacob wasn't even born yet. All right, and then as you read, you know what I'm saying, it'll tell you how, you know, the Creator covered him up, washed him up, and adorned him with ornaments, you know what I'm saying, and made a covenant with the Amorites. You see what I'm saying? Made a covenant with the Amorites and hooked them up. Well, they turned wicked. Okay, to show you that they had a covenant, if you Hebrews know about that story about Melchizedek. Melchizedek was an Amorite priest at the end of the Amorites' reign and total control when they was like got cast down by the Creator, and the Creator was replacing them for their wickedness and their evilness, because they had mixed with them Nephilims and the Raphalims, and they created Sodom and Gomorrah, the lesbian and gay camps. So it was time for them to go, you know what I'm saying, because the Creator did put his name in Jerusalem. So, you know, them people couldn't be there, you know what I'm saying, with that wickedness, and the Creator was displacing them. And that's what our job was to do, was to get rid of them. But we came into the land and started partying and kicking it with them. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, Melchizedek was an Amorite priest, and the priest of Sulam is short for Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? Those Jebusites, Amorites. All right, those Jebusite Amorites are the founders of Babylon. And if you look at that picture right there, that's them. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have no pigmentation. They didn't have no pigmentation, and they had Tazarad. These like, you know, white folks. And they, you know, had a civilization, and it was Babylon. And they, you know, lost their ways, and they was the scribes of Babylon. They had a city called Nippur and Sippur. All right, look, you see this? All right, this gonna be. All right, so that's the Amorites, the Moabites, and the Edomites. All them close. All them will mix and become one under them Amorites. Alright, them folks gonna have Tazarat, and Edom mixed with them folks and took on, you know, their heritage, and you know, the Moabites mixed with the Amorites. The Amorites basically took over the Moabites and Ammon, you know what I'm saying? That's in the Tanakh in detail. You know, I could pull all that up. Alright. Them Amorites. Alright, so it's the Amorite territory. Alright. See that brother Sudan SETI? He been abusing the Hebrews. He been getting away with a whole lot of stuff because the Hebrews don't know what's going on, and they been using Jewish history, slick Amorite history, and I'm gonna show this. And he been taking advantage of that. Alright, look, you see the Amorites? This is what they, you know what I'm saying, they control and they territory. Everything basically boil down to them and go back to them, because the Sephardi Jews, they ain't nothing but Amorites. They Hebrew name is Sepharvim. If you go to 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 24, you will see that those are the Sepharvims translate them into Sephardi, and Sephardi is the father word for the Sephardims and the Sephardics. The Sephardics ain't nothing but the Sephardis that mix with the Southern European and people of European descent in Europe. And the Sephardim is like the Mahazarazi Jews that mix with the people around the Mediterranean area. You know what I'm saying? Libya, North Africa, and they are mostly like Arabs. You know what I'm saying? The Arabs gonna be like the OG Edomites. You know what I'm saying? So them Amorites and the Edomites make up the Sephardims, and the pure Japhet and the Amorites is the Sephardi, the Sephardic. In the Sephardi is like the main groups that go back, to Babylon, and they are the Sephardims. But they mix with everybody, so they look mixed, and they can have all kind of like little different little looks. Some of them have a greater degree of pigmentation and some don't. That's why they come with that old slick word when they try to say, oh, they got olive skin. They skin is olive color. You know what I'm saying? They talking about like green, the olive oil color, because we know that olives are black and green. Okay, them Amorites got their land back, and they got their land back during the Babylonian wars. You know what I'm saying? When the Babylonians came, the Babylonians consisted of at that time, of Scythians. Scythian is the code name for Ashkenazi in history. If you look up the word Scythian and put Ashkenazi with it, they're going to go on and tell you that Ashkenazi were the Scythians in the past, and that they associated with the Scythian nation. That's how they hide Ashkenazi name in history. And it's like a lot of Hebrews. This is why you're being taken advantage of, because you don't know who the Jews are. And then you think we are Jews. The Jews ain't nothing but the Jebusite Amorites, the Sephardi groups, and those who mix with them. So this brother been taking advantage, you know what I'm saying, of the Hebrews' lack of knowledge, dealing with their heritage. And what he failed to realize is that the Creator blotted our heritage out, so it ain't our fault that we don't know. But he been taking advantage of that. And he trying to set himself up in a position to get paid, because he know that them Jews and them white folks want him to say and want that to be pushed, that we are not the Hebrews. That's their greatest dream, is for people to think that we are not the chosen people. And what they mean by chosen is the ones who were supposed to carry the covenant and present the will of the Creator to the humanities on this earth. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically, the Torah laws that Moses brung us. They still prevalent, and we gonna still recreate them, because you got Hebrews that's studying the Bible every day. So we getting familiar with, what's going on, even though those Jews translated our heritage during the Greek times. Like I said, there's a whole lot of history going on. I got a lot of videos, and I explain, different aspects, what I'm saying, of our history. And, man, it's time consuming, because, our history was blotted out. And the world history has basically been in the hands of those Babylonian scribes that took over our heritage. This brother, like I said, been having a good time. Okay, those Amorites had a covenant before we Hebrews did. You know what I'm saying? And you'll see that the Creator hooked them up. And kind of put them on a right course. We can't say who the Creator can bless and take care of, because the Creator is the Creator of all, but those Amorites demonstrated that they couldn't be trusted, because they turned wicked. You know what I'm saying? And that's like all the wickedness that we experiencing now today basically go back to Babylon, into Egypt, and it's a continuous cycle. And this continuous cycle will basically destroy the earth and destroy humanity if it's not stopped. And the only way to stop this evilness that's going on is for us to wake up and reclaim our heritage. We owe that to humanity, is to wake up and reclaim our heritage, so the earth and the goodwill of humanity can fall back in place. You see what I'm saying? You can see in biblical history, along with world history, that it wasn't really no wars going on in the world until we Hebrews broke the covenant. But the Creator knew that we would break the covenant from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? That's like if you go to Genesis, this gonna be Genesis 32. I mean, not Genesis 32, it's gonna be Deuteronomy 31, verse 16, I think. Let's see. 31, verse 16. 31, verse 16. Let me see. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, where they go to be among them, and shall forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Okay, Prophet Moses told us the same thing, what we'll do. You know, and Prophet Moses said, For I know that after my death ye will utterly corrupt yourselves, and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the later days, because you will do evil in the sight of the Elohim, to provoke him to anger through the works of your hands. You know, Moses told us that before he passed away. And sure enough, it come to pass. You know, we couldn't leave that Egyptian religion alone. You know, we couldn't leave that Egyptian stuff alone. And that's basically the story of the Tanakh. You know what I'm saying? That's like if you go in the book of Ezekiel, where I was, he'll tell you how the Egyptians were the first to bust us open. You know, the Egyptians was the first to corrupt us and bring us low. You know, it was the Egyptian culture that turned us out from the beginning. Let me see. I spent half my time turning to these verses. Let's see. One thing about it, you can always go to the computer and type in some stuff, and them devils will even help you find the scriptures. Let's read. Off. I'll come back to that. Alright. Us Hebrews were corrupted by the Amorite culture. The Amorite culture that existed in the land before we Hebrews come out of Egypt. It was there and it was wicked. Okay, we Hebrews left the promised land and we were supposed to displace them people. And we didn't. And we got caught up. We started kicking it with them. We started partying with them. And that caused our destruction. You know, and one of the curses for breaking the covenant was to have your heritage blotted out. Alright, let's see. And that's going to be Deuteronomy 29:20. I know where that's at. You know, it's a lot of verses that you can show different parts of our history. You can show this and you can show that. But the main thing is, you know, what the Tanakh is a book showing that we broke covenant. You know, the Torah is the 5 books and the Tanakh is the sayings of the prophets. You know, combined with the Torah, you know, and that's from Genesis to the book of Malachi. You know, alright. Genesis 29 verse 20 says, the Elohim would not spare him, but the anger of the Elohim and his jealousy shall smote
against that man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and the Elohim shall blot his name out from up under heaven. That's quite a few verses show you, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, breaking the covenant, you know, one of the things of breaking the covenant is that you're going to lose your heritage, and that you're going to be shipped off to slavery, and you ain't going to know who you is, because you're going to go through so much stuff, and you're going to be in control by your captors, and they're going to take you down through there. And if you read the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, the blessings and the curses, only a fool would think that we don't fit the curses. Matter of fact, we the only people on the face of this earth that fit all the curses. Fit all the curses. You know, I could read them all off, you know, but I'm sure the people who debate with Hebrew history are familiar with the curses. I ain't got to read them off, because you should know about the curses, you know, and the curses calls for us to be taken to a strange land, and basically Prophet Moses prophesied who would come get us and everything when he said that, you know, that they will swoop down. This is going to be Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 49 or 50, how he said that they will swoop down on us like an eagle, and grab us in the language we wouldn't understand, and they won't have no respect for the old or the young. Well, it's like that today. Okay, this brother SETI, General SETI, whatever he called himself, you know, he don't know that, you know, we are the Hebrews. Basically, he know it, but he exploiting the people that don't know. You see what I'm saying? And there's a whole bunch of us that don't know. And we basically be teaching Jewish history, and Jewish history gonna be the people that was placed in our land in 722, chapter 17, 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 24. You'll see that word Sephardim, and that word Sephardim covers the Sephardi Jews. And all right, turn right to it. All right, you see. All right. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddar, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. All right. If you go to 2 Chronicles, this is in 7. Turn right to it. All praise be Almighty Yah. If you go to 2 Chronicles, and as you read down, you know, you will see that all the tribes is there. This is under King Hezekiah. This is in 715 BC. All the tribes are there. And as you read down, you know, he's going to tell you how we escaped the Assyrians. You know, if you get down to verse 6. Verse 6, he's going to tell you how we even escaped the Assyrians. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. So, you know, we escaped the Syrians. And then as you read, you know, he'll tell you all the tribes is there. And then all the tribes does not mention here is going to be mentioned in his grandson times, King Josiah, around about 632 BC. That's going to be 2 Chronicles chapter 34. You know, so all the tribes was there. And did nobody get taken to Assyria? No 10 lost tribe. Basically, the Assyrians only took 3 tribes, the fighting tribes. You know, if you go to 1 Chronicles chapter 5, let me get this in too. And I pray everybody understanding, and that I ain't just jumping around though. But this brother got our history twisted. We the Hebrews, and there's some of us can show the history. See what I'm saying? There's some of us can show the history. Okay, this is who the Assyrians gonna need when they was fighting them Babylonians, them white folks. You know what I'm saying? If you look at First Chronicles chapter 5, and then you get down to verse 18, and it says the sons of Reuben, the Gadites, the half tribe of Manasseh, violent men, able to bear bucklers and sword, and shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. Okay, as you read, and then you get down to verse 26. This is First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 26, and you'll see, in the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul of Assyria and the spirit of Talicaplazer, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Hela and Her and unto the Gozan river unto this day. Okay, if you look at the book of Ezekiel, you know, them Hebrews during the Babylonian war, at the beginning of it, it's the book of Ezekiel, and them Hebrews was taken to the same place that the Assyrian had took the three fighting tribes that created the 10 lost tribe myths that the Jews created. You see, they had to create that 10 lost tribe stuff to justify them having Jews in other lands that they done created from trade. You see what I'm saying? They kind of cover that end up. Like I say, it's a whole bunch going on, and we dealing with some people, some Babylonian scribes that had a civilization for like almost 2,000 years, man, before we even become a people. And when we came into the promised land, we was coming in to displace they people, and we didn't succeed. You know, they was slick off Hamite knockoffs. Them gonna be the Hamite kids that had Tezzeret. You know what I'm saying? That was cursed, and they had mixed up with them Nephilims. And when this dude be talking about that God talking about exterminating the Africans and all that, this dude is crazy, and he don't know what's going on, and that's blasphemous. You see what I'm saying? Because the Creator had told us to get rid of those Tezzeret. Tezzeret is what they call leprosy. You know, leprosy is the misnomer, the mispronunciation of Tezzeret. It is what the Creator put on them, and that turned their skin white. Matter of fact, you almost got Tezzeret on you. You see what I'm saying? You almost got Tezzeret on you, but you know how, you know, us Hebrews come in all different pigmentations. You know, that's like how Jacob, you know, our brother, you know what I'm saying, our father Jacob, how his brother Esau come out looking red, you know, kind of like how you look red. Okay, us Hebrews was tricked out the covenant by the Egyptians. Like I said, I showed in one video how Pharaoh, after Joseph answered those dreams and Pharaoh was satisfied with that, man, Pharaoh immediately sent Joseph to the priest of own daughter, gave him the priest of own daughter. You know what I'm saying? And Joseph even said he almost forgot his family house and who he was. You know, and out of that union come the two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And we know why Joseph out doing this thing that the granddaddy gonna try to corrupt him, which he did. Ephraim gonna be the youngest. And if you look throughout the Tanakh history, Ephraim descendants were kind of active, more active than all the other tribes. And Ephraim descendants did that golden calf. You know, Jeroboam brought that junk up out of Egypt when, you know, Solomon passed away. You know, Solomon kind of like brought us down. You know, like I say, we didn't stay in the promised land a long time. We didn't stay there long enough to leave
and outstanding culture that could exist if we wasn't there. You know, that's like now, if you go to the promised land and dig around, you mostly gonna find them Amorite folk stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's like, you know, yeah, when we were there, we did bury ourselves in certain places, and when they find those bones and stuff, they just label them as African bones, or, you know, from Egypt, you know, and try to classify them like that, and they don't try to associate them with us, you know. But, you know, it's like the Nuftians and Minister Fruit, other prehistoric named peoples that they say was from Africa, that left the Sahara, that went into the Mesopotamian area, bringing the livestock, you know, and that all the livestock and you know, was domesticated in Africa and then went to the Mesopotamian area, you know, the grains and so forth, you know. And we know that Mesopotamia, you know, got a long ancient history, you know, and that the Hamites, you know, were the most active people in the Mesopotamian area. As can be seen about, you know, Nimrods, you know, found in the Babylon. But Babylon was an Amorite civilization too, also. Okay, us Hebrews, we broke the covenant by fooling with Egyptian religion. You know, you would have thought that the Amorites would have, you know, got us, and it would have been their religion and culture that destroyed us. No, it was the Egyptian culture that got us. It was the Egyptian black African culture that got us. And in our last days, that's where we went to. You know, we ran inside Africa. You know, it's like it's so many notes, man, I want to touch on, because, you know, dealing with this brother, you got to kind of like be on your cue, because if he see you slipping in any kind of way on your history, he going to try to run with it. You see what I'm saying? But this the Israelite brotherhood, you know what I'm saying? I kind of know the history in detail. That's like I'm freestyling the history just, you know, off my mind. All right. I mean, it's a lot going on. You know, that's like the prophet Isaiah gave Assyria's prophecy and Egypt's prophecy and outcome before it come to pass around about 735 BC when it started. And, you know, the prophet Num and the prophet Micah, all of them was around during that time making prophecies. And all they prophecies I could show you in history with the events and the things that took place. Okay. In the book of Jeremiah, you know, I'm going to sum it up. Chapter 44. You know, we had been doing the Egyptian religion for 300 years, from 931 BC to the time that King Josiah cleaned it up. You know, he was born around about 632 BC. So, you know, around about 300 years or around that era, around about that much time, we was on Egyptian religion from the death of Solomon to the time that King Josiah cleaned the Egyptian worship up. It's like 300 years. That's a long time. That's like almost as long as America's been founded. You know what I'm saying? You don't hardly see none of that Indian culture nowhere like it, you know, used to be and stuff, and that you got to go to certain areas and certain places to see, you know, the native people and the original people who, you know, owned this land. All right, well, us Hebrews, we didn't stay in the promised land long enough to leave our signature, you know what I'm saying, of our culture, because, you know, the Egyptian culture was there before ours. Egypt did trade in Mesopotamia. You know, Egypt did trade in the Mesopotamia area. And us, you know, coming, you know, to Egypt, you know, and then going to the promised land, we didn't leave no big signature. You know, we didn't leave no big signature, man, with our culture there and stuff. So, you know, Egypt and the promised land is nowhere from each other. You know, it's like, you know, some few miles and stuff. And so we didn't leave no big old culture
in the promised land when we was finally kicked out. So, you know, them Amorites, them Tezzeret Amorites, and all those folks was there before we got there. And they culture was dominant. Thousands of years of culture compared to 820 years of culture. You know? Alright. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 44. This is our last days on the land for the 99%, for the millions, all the tribes. As I've shown in Hezekiah days, all the people was there. And in King Josiah day, all the people was there. So where would they go from that short span of time from 621 BC was when King Josiah and cleaned the whole Israel up, the northern and the southern kingdom. The Babylonians started coming around about 595 BC. That's when Ezekiel and them was taken off the first time. And then the Babylonians come back. And this is what we said. Going into Africa, you know, we had, you know, took off. You know, we said that, you know, the Chaldeans was trying to enslave us. You know, the Chaldeans army consisted of the Scythians. Matter of fact, the Scythians made up the Chaldean army. You know, I got some history on that I post on Facebook with the archaeological evidence and everything showing that Scythian arrowheads found throughout the whole Jerusalem. You know what I'm saying? Well, they done shot the whole Jerusalem up. They shot so many arrows at us that, you know, some of them still there. All right. Well, those Scythians were Ashkenazi. You know, those are the people that come from the north. And if you read the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, he'll tell you that the Creator sent for them and called for them. He called for the worstest of the peoples. The worstest of the peoples. And to chase us about the land. And sure enough, that's what happened. You know, we got chased into Africa. You know, and this is what we said on the way there. You know, we had played with the Creator. This is how wicked we was. Let me show y'all how wicked we was. Man, the prophet Jeremiah had caught up with us. Man, the prophet Jeremiah had caught up with us. And then we said this. Man, if you go to Jeremiah 42, this is what we said. This is us going into Africa. Then all the captains of the forces, and Johan, the son of Ker, and Jezaniah, the son of Hoshea, and all the people from the least even unto the greatest came near. You know, the prophet Jeremiah had caught up with us, you know, and you know what I'm saying? The people came near and said unto Jeremiah the prophet, let us beseech thee our supplication and be accepted before thee, and pray for us unto the Elohim thy Yah, and even for all this remain. For we are left but a fruit of many, and then eyes behold. Man, we was all wet, nasty, toe up, hungry, and we told the prophet Jeremiah if he can go pray to the Creator for us and see what he say, and whatever he say and come back with, whatever message he come back with, we gonna do it no matter what, is what we said. All right, and then as you read, man, it says, all right, then the Elohim thy Yah may show us the way wherein we may walk, and the things that we may do. That was evil right there, what we said. That was real evil. We said that if he go to the Elohim and ask him what we should do, and whatever he come back with, no matter what it is, we gonna do it. Oh, okay. Then Jeremiah the prophet said unto them, I have heard you, and behold, I will pray unto the Elohim your Yah according to the words, and it shall come to pass that whatsoever thing the Elohim shall answer you, I will declare it unto you, and I will keep nothing back from you. All right, the prophet Jeremiah, you know what I'm saying, he took off, you know, and he was gone for about 10 days, and then he come back. You know what I'm saying? Then they said to Jeremiah, the Elohim be a true and faithful witness between us, if we do not, even according to all the things that which the Elohim shall send thee to us, whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will obey the voice of the Elohim our Yah, to whom we send thee to, that it may be well with us. And when we obey the voice of the Lord our Yah, and it come to pass after 10 days, then the word of the Elohim came unto Jeremiah. Then called he Johanan the son of Kurt, and all the captains of the forces which were with him, and all the people from the least even unto the great. It's kind of like the situation we in now with all these Hebrew camps and stuff. All right. And said unto them, this said the Elohim, the Yah of Israel, unto whom ye sent me to present your supplications before him. If ye will still abide in this land, then I will build you and not pull you down, and I will plant you and not pluck you up. For I repent me of the evil that I have done unto you. Be not afraid of the king of Babylon, of whom ye are afraid. Be not afraid of him, said the Elohim, for I am with you to save you and to deliver you from his hand. And I will show mercy unto you, that he may have mercy on you, and cause you to return unto your land. All right. Let's see this here. All right. But it shall be that if you will not dwell in this land, neither obey the voice of the Lord your God, saying, no, but we will go into the land of Egypt, which is basically saying the Sahara, Africa. Egypt is part of the Sahara. That's all the same. The Sahara and Egypt is all together. You know what I'm saying? And we see that, that Prophet Jeremiah was crazy, and that the Elohim ain't tell him that, and that we was going into Africa to dwell and live, where we don't hear the sound of the sword, the trumpet, want no food. And there we was going to stay and live. And we went on into the Sahara. And you know what happened to us. It didn't happen immediately. Prophet Moses had already said that if you break the covenant, which that was breaking the covenant, because we said this too. All right. If you go back to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 44. Chapter 44, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, this is what we said. This is chapter 44. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in Egypt, and Pethros, answered Jeremiah, the southern Egypt, as for the word that thou hast spoken to us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do whatsoever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. Now that was a state of mind. That was a state of mind that didn't change. Now, to show you that that state of mind didn't change, if you go to the book of Ezra, the book of Nehemiah, the book of Haggai, the book of Zechariah, and the book of Malachi, those five prophets covered the exiles like a 1%. A tenth that was taken to Babylon when us millions went into Africa. And if you look at the history of what those prophets say, you'll see that the Queen of Heaven worshipers never mentioned, and that the Queen of Heaven worshipers never came back out of Africa, and that the Queen of Heaven worshipers we are the descendants of. You see what I'm saying? That's why come our history fit them curses in detail, because we are those people that broke the covenant in the book of Jeremiah that ran into Africa. You know, we know that the League of Nations drawed up the African borders when the European nations divided Africa up, and that Egypt border kind of extended a little farther than what it is today. You see what I'm saying? So we know this already. So, you know, Egypt is part of the Sahara, and when we said that we was going into Egypt to live, we were saying that we was going in the Sahara to live. You know we got this subtitle, our anthropological name, that they call us sub-Saharians. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's where the Hebrews went. And the Tanakh showed this in detail where you can't get no other understanding. It's the only understanding. All you have to do is know a little world history with it. Okay, so this brother been pulling a good con game. And he thinking that if he can show and disprove our Israelite heritage, which he been doing with them Hebrews that's using Jewish history. See, it's a such thing as Jewish history, and if you listen to him, he basically telling you that he understand what's Jewish history. That's how you know he a con man and a con artist, because he slick try to make the separation if you listen to him. You know what I'm saying? But it's you know, it's a paycheck that he can get and receive if he deny our heritage and he get a big following as he seemed to be doing. You know, these con games in the last days, these dudes trying to get on so they don't have to worry about eating no more and stuff. You know, they seen how some of them done bullshitted they way to the top. You know, that's like that dude Polite. You know, that's another ignorant dude, you know what I'm saying, that try to deny us our heritage. You know, the Creator gonna deal with all of them in these last days, because, you know, we can't go to the promised land with that type of heart and with that type of mentality, and them pushing that Egyptian doctrine and Egyptian heritage and trying to force that on us. They ain't doing nothing but making us suffer longer, recreating our suffering. That's all they doing, is recreating our suffering. You see what I'm saying? And this is another thing, you know, that we know that them Hamites, you know, don't give a dang about us, because out of 400 years of us being here, and they ain't made no effort to try to come get us. You know, it's a known fact that the League of Nations, that the European nations, the United Nations got it where you can sail any ship within 12 miles of a nation. 12 miles of a nation. You can sell a ship, any ship, a warship, a ship with bombs on it, anything. You can sell up to any coast on the face of this earth within 12 miles. Okay, ain't no ship from Africa ever came to get us. Ain't nobody ever sent from us from Africa. And then this Negro preaching that black African Negro shit that the slave owners and that the very Jews that he say he against put on us and created. That's like the meaning of our words, black, and every word that utter and come out of our mouth. Them Babylonian scribes done defined it and got it chronicalized and then assigned its meanings. You see what I'm saying? So it's a whole lot going on, Hebrews. It's a whole lot going on. But the Israelite Brotherhood gonna try to show you some of what's going on. You know, I'm Israel, been Israel. This is the Israelite Brotherhood. All right, us Hebrews, when we, you know, broke the covenant and went into Africa during the Babylonian wars, how we never came back home. We never came back out. And how we know that we are the Hebrews is because, you know, the exile prophets. You know, the exile prophets never recorded the Queen of Heaven worshipers, the people who caused the Babylonian captivity to take place, never recorded them coming back out of Africa. You know, the millions. You know what I'm saying? They disappeared off the annals of history, you know, because them Babylonian scribes wasn't going to record us breaking the covenant in Africa, because that was going to hurt them. You know, those Jews them people, I could show you about 15 other nations of people who was placed in our land besides those people from Babylon that was placed in 722. Man, I'm talking about 20, 30 different nations of people pulled up in the promised land after we was driven out and start calling it their home. And then those people would mix and become one. And those are basically the people that's occupying the land now and calling it theirs. You know what I'm saying? But we gonna get it back. We already in the door already. The Creator planted the seeds. Them Hebrews from Jerusalem and Demona, Benjamin, them crew that went over there in the 60s and 70s where they planted, and we gonna come home. So the Creator say we're gonna come home, and can't no heathen like this or nobody else derail our heritage. So he wasting his time. That's why come these videos finna start dropping, showing how this dude is pulling a slick one on the folks. You know what I'm saying? And how he trying to preserve the Jews' heritage, and how he trying to keep the Jews afloat, the very people who he say he against. Now that's some cold mess, to say that you against some people, but then at the same time helping them. That's wicked right there, and that's what he trying to pull off and stuff. And we can shut it down by showing him truth and showing him what time it is. All you got to do is direct it to the Israelite Brotherhood videos. I already got one on him already. This gonna be number 2. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to sit down and do some more research and bring it all together. I got the SETI history and all that down. I could show what Prophet Isaiah called for the SETI history, that called for the Egyptians and us to intermingle with the Assyrians in their last days. I could show how Africans was in Assyria and basically made up its empire, and how the Assyrians couldn't get nothing done without the people, from Africa and stuff. So it's a whole lot going on, Hebrews, but we gonna get it right. We gonna get it right. And all it boiled down to is that we was tricked out of our covenant. Them old Egyptians who he want us to be and claim, knowing that what destroyed us in our last days. That's how you know he a con man, because he know what destroyed us in our last days. He know what destroyed us in our last days, and he trying to push us and want you Hebrews to go in that direction, knowing that the Egyptians are the people that, cause us to lose our, heritage. That's messed up. But that's how it is. You're going to have Hebrews going, folks going, sail you down the river. It's a verse in here I want to, man, so bad. Alright. Yeah, that dude is slick, but he ain't too slick, because the Israelite Brotherhood got him now. You know what I'm saying? I already proved how the Egyptians tricked us out of our heritage by putting us on the golden calves, by putting us on the Egyptian religions, and that's what caused our downfall. I done already proved that. So, and then I done proved that we went into Egypt and that we went into Africa to live during the Babylonian wars. I done proved that. So that's the end of his fight right there. We the end result of them breaking the covenant, us being enslaved and having the curses on us. So that's the end of him. His show folded up that quick and that easy. You know what I'm saying? It's like Almighty Yah sent the knockout punch to him. You know what I'm saying? That quick and easy. It wasn't even in the ring long. And I done proved how we are the Hebrews that broke the covenant, and then showed where the Amorites and that the people preoccupied our land basically got their land and their heritage back. I got videos about that. Plenty of videos explaining a whole bunch of this history. And if you Hebrews will subscribe to this station, you gon', to my site, then you gonna stay informed on present information and also information that I develop. I'm always reading and studying, you know what I'm saying? And being that I have a little sense of what's going on, it's gonna be easy for me to show you some history. That's like me. I got you know what I'm saying, I can show you the difference between Jewish history and Hebrew Israelite history. You know, I can show you the difference between Jewish history and Hebrew Israelite history. Because I used to I used to write them rabbis. Look, you see this right here? Look, you see that right there? Look, you see this? See what that say? Took it back there. See how old that is. Man, I got a bunch of letters. Man, I got a bunch of letters. Man, from rabbis. Different rabbis, us talking about the history. But I was like a little baby then. You know what I'm saying? I was like a little baby then. And but now I done got the history up, and I can kind of show you what went on and stuff. And I got trusted information and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like I got books. You know what I'm saying? I got books, you know, that come from rabbis that some of you Hebrews ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying, never have. And, you know, you can get your hands on these books because everything is found on eBay and stuff and all other stuff. But anyway, you know, I got this good book that explained about the Jews that Max I. DeMont wrote. And he explained to you how those Jews basically developed the whole Western civilization. The whole Western civilization, Europe and everything that we know now, they kind of, you know, put their hands down on it. And that show you that they wasn't under the curses. So we the only people that have been through the curses. I done proved that the Hebrews went into Africa. Oh, and that's like them Randanites. The Randanites are the Jewish merchants that traded all over the earth. You know, it's like they went to China and traded. They made Chinese Jews. They went to India and trade. They made Indian Jews. They went all over, everywhere. And they did trade with people. And then they would make Jews and convert the people that they say thought was cool. And they converted them. And then that's how they held their power and stuff. Well, those people right now today are looked up on as the tribes of Israel. You know what I'm saying? And it's not true. If you didn't go to Africa and was enslaved from there, then you can't be no Hebrew Israelite. It's impossible to be a Hebrew Israelite because all the tribes ran into Africa, but that 1% that was captured and took into Babylon, and that's a whole nother history. They was destroyed because they started mixing and they can't pass heritage over to the Greeks. You know, I could show you the Greek kings, the Lycimists, the Ptolemies, all them claiming Israelite heritage, and how that they took care of the Jews, the Edomite Jews in the Promised Land, the people who inherited our heritage after the exiles were destroyed, that come back from Babylon. You know, they got destroyed in a 98-year span. The book of Malachi, 430 BC, gonna be the last book, and 98 years later the Greeks roll in 332 BC, and they destroyed them real fast. Hardly left a trace in history. You know, it's like those folks was in the temple, Tobiah, Sanballat, all the enemies, the Amorites, and all the enemies that helped destroy us. They was in the temple, they was controlling the land, and the exiles, when they come back from Babylon, you know, I can show Israel, the tribes of Israel among the Babylonian captivity, you know, and I can show you some of the towns that they was in the book of Ezra when he named them off and tried to chronicleize the last fruit people, and I can show you that. And they was destroyed. The exiles was destroyed because they couldn't pass heritage over to the Greeks and to the Romans and to the people that was in our land when they come back from Babylon. You know, so they got destroyed real fast. And those Babylonian scribes who was already documenting history for the West, they didn't write that down. You know, that's history that I done pieced together, the Israelite Brotherhood, and I can show a complete story and complete history with other sources showing this, and the exiles was destroyed. That's like no Hebrews in the New Testament. You know, that's like if you look at some of the characters and people, you know, they got their names who held the temple during her time. You know, they was all Edomites. You know, John Heinekes had converted the Edomites in 130 BC to by the time Herd was born and built his temple, and it wasn't no refurbished temple. It was a completely brand new temple built from the ground up. That Herd built that temple, Herd the Edomite, in 20 BC, that by the time Jesus was born, they was all Edomites. Okay, Jesus turned his back on the Hebrews that went into Africa in the book of Jeremiah, the queen of heaven worshipers, us that played with the Creator through prophet Jeremiah. When Jesus went to Egypt, he could have went throughout Africa looking for them. He was so stupid he didn't even know Tanakh history. He didn't even know nothing about that. He didn't even know her built that temple. See, it's a whole lot of history going on, Hebrews. A whole lot of history. The only thing we could trust is the Tanakh. That's the only thing you could trust, and pray to the Creator that your eyes open and that you see the truth, so these dudes like this don't lead you astray. Don't lead you astray, because I believe it's a price to pay for not worshiping the Creator. And these dudes playing with your soul and your spirit by leading you astray. Because if you ain't worshiping the Creator, then who you worship? See what I'm saying? Then that's going to leave you open for all kind of mischief. So these dudes is wicked. You know what I'm saying? And he a wicked dude trying to say that we ain't the Hebrews. But I just prove how we're the Hebrews. So you Hebrews get this video passed around so we can start putting an end to his foolishness, because he been had a long time. He been around a long time discrediting in the Hebrew communities. You know, we know some of the Hebrews using Jewish history to try to pass it off as Hebrew Israelite history. Well, them days is over with now. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. And also look on eBay. There's this book called The Hidden History of the Hebrew Israelite. That's my cover page on Facebook. Israel being Israel. For the Israelite Brotherhood. And we'll send this book off to you. You know, I know you Hebrews just mostly be seeing me. Well, I'm the main man with the history. You know what I'm saying? I'm the main man with the history. Can't nobody get the history in like me. You know what I'm saying? So, you Hebrews put this guy in this place and try to get me in touch with him, and every time he pop up and try to put us down, put these videos on him, showing how we went into Africa in the book of Jeremiah, and then tell him to get some proof on where these people went to after that, because the Jews ain't gonna write them going into Africa, disappearing and never being heard of no more. Come on now.